Okay, perfect. So good evening, everybody. I'll just briefly go through the agenda for today. I'll make some introductions for myself and Anton on one of the next slides. But essentially, the agenda is that we're going to go through what makes a good language learning project. We're going to go through some case studies from some schools that we've worked with previously, as well as still are working with. We'll talk about the methodology, pedagogy, and why our methodology has worked for the last 32 years in terms of an actual way of developing language skill for multiple languages. We'll share some examples of our teacher resources and tools, and we'll allow some time towards the end of the session for question and answers. And if at any time there are some questions that do come up, it might be easier if you either raise your hand or put that in the chat for now. And what we can do is we can kind of focus on doing that as part of the Q&A. But if any questions come up while we're going through the session, please do look to put them in the chat so that they're not forgotten. So a quick introduction for myself. My name is Harpreet Banga. I look after the Middle East and Africa markets for Rosetta Stone. I'm based in London in the UK. I travel quite extensively. This year I've probably flown about 17 times. I just got back from Iceland only on the weekend, which was my only one personal trip that I've made for the year, but I've done lots of work trips and flights this year. And my role is that I help to facilitate language learning and language testing for projects in schools, universities, as well as with employers and within the workplace. So it's everything from an individual school through to a higher education or language institute, through to TVET and vocational training, as well as professional training in the workplace or for a government sector. So it's quite a wide remit. Anton, do you want to make your introduction as well, please?
Yes, my name Anton Elinsky. I'm co-owner of the company ATB, which represents Rosetta Stone here in Israel and in the Middle East. I have a very long story to collaborate with the company Rosetta Stone from 2012. And I'm a PhD of economics. And for now, I develop with my partners the Rosetta Stone here in Israeli schools and other projects.
And just to remind everybody where you're located.
Personally, I'm located in Netanya, in Israel. My partner Arkady, he joined us today. He located in Haifa.
Yes, it's me.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Do you want to make your introduction as well, Arkady?
Arkady? Okay, I'll say a couple words about Arkady. Arkady.
Okay. I don't hear the questions. Sorry. Do you repeat, please?
Could you represent yourself?
Okay. I work in Anton in a TV company in Israel. I think about 2 years, and we try to use Rosetta Stone in Israel to help Alim Hadashim, new referrals, to learn Hebrew, for example, and we make some another projects to help people to learn English, professional English, and then.
Okay, thank you, Arkady.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So quick background about Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is actually part of an organization called IXL Learning. And IXL Learning, we actually have 14 separate brands within our solution set. So IXL Learning, which includes a comprehensive set of tools for K-12. So That includes maths, science, language arts, Spanish, and science. We have Takeoff, which is more designed for kindergarten through to grade 5 for math curricula. We also have lesson planning tools and teacher lessons, which is an online marketplace called Teacher Pay Teachers, so TPT right at the bottom. It's a very, very large, I think it's the world's largest marketplace for teachers to share resources with other teachers. And then with Rosetta Stone for languages, I believe we actually have 9 or 10 solutions in total that offer languages. So you see Rosetta Stone right at the top of the screen, but also we have immersion. So with Rosetta Stone, and we're going to talk about that today, but that is our globally established language learning platform. It's been going for 32, 33 years now, and it offers both through blended and through standalone e-learning solutions for learning up to 25 languages. Immersion is a way of testing and certifying language ability, and we have 9 separate languages that we test within the immersion platform. And then we have a number of other resources that we help and use to support language learning. We own dictionary.com, which is the world's most visited dictionary platform on the planet. We also own vocabulary.com, thesaurus.com, French Dictionary, and Spanish Dictionary.com, as well as Ingles and Fluencia. And they're designed more for the Latin American market, the Ingles and Fluencia for learning a language. But it gives you a bit of a background in the sense of the fact that we are larger than the sum of our parts, in that we have a lot of different resources that we use to cover education. Actually, as Rosetta Stone, just standalone, we work with between 12 and 15,000 corporate organizations. So these are small and large companies all over the world. We work with 22 to 25,000 educational institutions, everything from an individual class for a specialized school group, all the way through to a Ministry of Education for the whole of the educational system. And we work with up to 22,000 plus, I think it's more like 25 to 30,000 educational institutions. And then we also work with NGOs, governments, and that's approximately 9 to 10,000 plus organizations that are either public sector organizations or NGOs or governments of that nature, as well as having millions of consumer users around the globe. In terms of the introduction for the webinar and why we're here, we've obviously invited you to attend the webinar to understand more about how to implement different types of solutions, maybe using e-learning or AI and building that into your learning. But also as a thank you for attending today's session, we will be giving any schools who attend today for up to 30 students a 1-month free access to our platform. So once you've attended the whole session, we will be sending out a thank you email to ask you to arrange that with us, and we'll probably set that up with you so that we can do a little bit of training as well and have that launched with your students for you. In terms of the case studies today, we're going to go through, if we have time, 4 in total. We have the School of St. Jude's, we have Varnet Public School, McKeith Gimel, as well as Garland Independent School District. In terms of impact and implementation, we'll talk about why there was the need for language learning, what makes a good project, how to leverage technology, and then what are the benefits and how are they aligned to global sustainable goals. So what we'll try to do is to focus on these sustainability goals as a way of showing kind of a consistent standard across all of those different projects, because they're from different locations around the world. It's easier to have a more consistent standard that we can align to say, well, this is what the standard that we can align to globally, that is a consistent method of measuring success. For those of you who haven't heard of the Sustainability Development Goals, there are a set of, I believe it's 17 or 20 goals in total. We're going to talk about some of the goals that we align to, but in providing language learning via an online format and using interactive e-learning on both web and mobile platforms like Rosetta Stone, especially in the K-12 school setting, it does align to several of the Sustainability Development Goals, such as quality education, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, reduce inequality, peace, justice, and strong institutions, partnerships for goals. Now, we will be sharing the slides after the session, so rather than going through each of the individual goals that we align to, we'll have that shared on screen. But essentially, what we're saying is that, and what we've seen through the measurement of this, is that using interactive e-learning for language acquisition contributes to providing quality education, reducing inequality by making learning accessible to all students, regardless of their background, and equipping students with skills that enhance their future employment opportunities. Furthermore, it promotes global partnerships through the sharing of resources and technology, supporting the broader mission of sustainability development. So, like I said, we'll be sharing these slides, and you'll be able to go through those individual development goals in more details. What I'd like to do now is to go through some of the case studies, because then we can show you exactly how this kind of works in a real world example. And then we'll go into talking about some of the technology as well before we go into the question and answer session. So the first example I wanted to show as a case study, and we obviously have thousands of case studies that we can talk to, but I thought it would be quite nice to start with a school in Tanzania called the School of St. Jude. Now, the School of St. Jude started working with Rosetta Stone in 2021, and it started implementing primarily for English proficiency for their secondary school students. St. Jude's is a registered charity and NGO with a mission of providing free quality education to children living in poverty. Now, while public primary schools in Tanzania do teach in Kiswahili, English is the primary medium of instruction at St. Jude's. This happened to be causing a difficulty in student engagement and participation and academic achievement as well, especially for students who are transitioning from public schools into this NGO school system at St. Jude's. And they have multiple schools across Tanzania, so it's not just one location. Now, St. Jude's chose Rosetta Stone comprehensive curriculum and flexibility. Students were able to practice vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and cultural insights. And with the Rosetta Stone platform, students have the flexibility to learn and practice anywhere and at any time. The immersive and interactive learning through real-world images and spoken audio from native speakers keeps the students engaged in their learning and in their lessons. And teachers have also benefited from Rosetta Stone, because Rosetta Stone provides students with progress reports, provides teachers with student progress reports, as well as resources and support for teachers, including lesson plans, activity ideas, and professional development opportunities. This enables educators to integrate the software seamlessly into the curriculum and maximize its effectiveness. With the implementation of Rosetta Stone for English learning, staff at the school have witnessed improved English comprehension and communication. Rosetta Stone provides extended speaking practice in a safe and comfortable environment, i.e. using the AI that we have built into the software. This, in turn, empowers students to be more confident in interactive in English. Now, increased English skills better prepare students for academic success, as well as future educational and career opportunities in Tanzania, as well as within the global market. Since the School of St. Jude started launching Rosetta Stone in 2021, they've also expanded to offer additional languages outside of just English. So it's quite interesting that they started using Rosetta Stone for French and German and Arabic and some of the other languages that we also have on offer. Now, in terms of the alignment to the development goals, it aligns to SDG 4, which is for quality education, SDG 8 for decent work and economic growth, SDG 10 for reduced inequalities, and then SDG 17, which is the partnership for the goals. Now, the good thing here is that the School of St. Jude's doesn't just give students access until the age of 17 or 18. It also then continues to provide access to Rosetta Stone for their students and some of the other resources that they offer, even when they go to university, because they are providing that support to impoverished students throughout their academic journey. These efforts actually collectively have helped to strengthen students' academic engagement, life skills, and their confidence as they become young adults. And we've got some nice pictures of some of the examples of the implementation at the bottom of the screen there. You can see where they have set up these computer labs in these schools, and you can see students there from different age groups, both young and middle schoolers, who are using Rosetta Stone. So I think you've got some kind of, I would say year 6 or maybe just under year 6 students, as well as some year 9 students there studying with Rosetta Stone. The second example of the case study that we chose was for Varnet Public School. Now, Varnet Public School is an open enrollment pre-K through grade 8 public charter district that serves a diverse community in Houston, Texas. Their student body includes a high population of emergent bilingual English learners, as well as students seeking opportunities to learn a second or third language. And Varnet wanted to offer a language program that could meet the needs of all students, as well as the staff and parents. And it's actually quite interesting to note that even at the School of St. Jude's, teachers and parents are also offered access to language learning through Rosetta Stone as part of the access that the school purchases. So in terms of the challenges, Varnet serves a growing number of, as we mentioned, emergent bilingual students, with nearly 60% speaking Spanish at home. Now, these students have various levels of English proficiency, and many are newcomers who speak little or no English when they arrive at the school. So English as a second language teachers wanted a technology program to support their learning centers in the EB Pull-Out program and help prepare students for the Texas English Language Proficiency Assessment System. At the same time, Varnet realized that many parents in the community could benefit from a program that could help them build English proficiency. Varnet also wanted to offer second language opportunities for students in their gifted and talented program called Alpha. And with very limited resources for world language instruction, they needed a program that would support independent learning for students. So they basically didn't have enough teachers. And so they wanted to rely on technology to help support the school in offering not just English, but multiple languages across the board for them. Ultimately, Varnet wanted a language program that would meet the needs of both English learners and world language students while creating opportunities for parents in the community. And it's quite a nice quote that we see from Ingrid White-Moore, who was part of the Alpha Specialist program, where she mentioned that Rosetta Stone is a great program not only for students and teachers, but also to get families and the community involved. And it's a way for students to connect with each other and with parents. And it's one of the best programs that they have for their emergent bilingual scholars. In terms of some of the results, Varnet is seeing very positive results for students in both the English program as well as the Alpha programs. The program accelerates English language acquisition for the emergent bilingual students, helps them prepare for their TELPUS exam. Teachers report that students with minimal language skills at the beginning of the school year can actually progress to speaking and writing in full sentences within a short number of weeks and complete paragraphs by the end of the year. Rosetta Stone also enables the district to offer language opportunities for their Alpha students that would not be possible otherwise because of the lack of resources. And many English-speaking students are now learning Spanish in order to, on the reverse, connect with the local communities who are Spanish-speaking, non-English speaking communities. So others are also stretching their language skills with languages like Mandarin and French. So students have also compared vocabulary across different languages to find similarities, bridging gaps in the community. And with Rosetta Stone for Schools, Varnet can meet its objectives of providing a rigorous academic experience for every student. This is their words, not ours, by the way. The interactive activities also help to keep students highly engaged and motivated. And the district is excited about expanding parent access to Rosetta Stone through its parent empowerment program, and has been working with the Rosetta Stone team to implement best practice for parent learning. So it's actually quite a wonderful example of not just providing this for students who need to learn English, but also is expanding that out for students who want to learn additional languages, and then for parents who also need to be assimilated into the community because they're unable to actually speak the local language. And we offer 24 or 25 languages, as we mentioned. So that opportunity does exist if that's relevant to your school. And again, in terms of alignment to the development goals, we saw that we aligned to both the quality education as well as reduce inequalities, peace and justice in strong institutions, as well as partnership for goals. And again, we'll share the slides with you in terms of the individual aspects of what that looked like. But this case study does highlight how integrating technology in education, particularly for language learning, can support much broader development objectives by fostering inclusive, equitable, and quality education for all students, regardless of what that student looks like, be it a student in the school, a teacher, or a parent. The next example is actually for Makif Gimel. Anton, did you want to talk through the Makif Gimel case study?
Yes, of course. In the Makif Gimel school used Rosetta Stone from the May 2023 to June 2024. All amount of students who use Rosetta Stone was 50, 25 students in one group in May 2023, and 25 during the academic year 2023-2024. They studied Hebrew. All of these students was new repatriants, and usually in class was a student with a different level because they had to start to learn Hebrew when they came to the Israel, and different students came in different time. And the first group had many students with different levels. In the second group, the language level was initially the same, but then different learning speeds of each student became apparent. Of course, apparent. Learning process. Rosetta Stone training usually took place in the classroom and at home on weekend and holidays. There were children who liked the platform so much that they studied at home every day. Rosetta Stone became a great assistant for the teacher. For example, the teacher sees that the students need something that he has not yet mastered. He sends them to study Rosetta Stone. During the holidays, Rosetta Stone helped to continue learning language. The teachers organized a completion between the students who will advise further, or who will cover the material with fewer mistakes, or who will complete a set of tasks faster. The winners received prizes and initiatives. Individual work with each student has become a reality. Next slide, please. Thank you. Finally, learning outcomes. Since Rosetta Stone was not the only teaching tool, it is possible to isolate the effect of it alone in language acquisition. However, Rosetta Stone easily and harmoniously integrated into the learning process, allow it a very smooth and comfortable entry into learning a new language. With Rosetta Stone, it's very easy to relate the language being studied to real life. Usually, this is quite difficult for a teacher since it's necessary to prepare a lot of illustrations and text materials, and different interactive materials, etc. Statistics that show the progress of each individual student are very useful. Rosetta Stone uses all channels of information perception. Some of children were attracted by the very fact of studying on the online platform. Using Rosetta Stone in the classroom allowed everyone to study at their own level of language proficiency. After just a month of classes, students were noted to begin to make fewer mistakes, although the materials became more difficult. Rosetta Stone provides itself very well with children who communicate little. It helped them gain vocabulary and conversational practice. As a result, school children began to communicate more with other children. So now we are discussing about volume of supply for the next year. Okay, Harpreet, you can finish this case.
Perfect. Thank you, Anton. And so in terms of the alignment of the goals, again, we can see that this case study aligned to SDG 4 for quality education, SDG 10 for reduced inequalities, and SDG 17 for partnerships for goals. So it's quite a good example of a local case study that we wanted to pick out because we picked a range of different case studies, one from a school with very little resources and funding and support as an NGO, obviously a wider school district in the US. We picked a local example from Israel. And now we've got a slightly different example with Garland Independent School District. Again, this is a school district from the US, but the case study is slightly different to the direct case study that we were talking about for the first three. So with Garland, learning English actually empowers families and promotes parent participation. So English fluency actually helps with families of emergent bilingual students to advocate for themselves and their students to participate with their children's education and find new job opportunities. And so this is actually helping support families at Garland via an evening study center program. So the district actually offers GED and civics classes, as well as English classes that use Rosetta Stone. So this is actually night classes for adults and parents who are non-English speaking to assimilate them into the community, because they know if they can speak English, because this is obviously in the US, so it's an English-speaking region, it means that the teachers are more engaged when it comes to the students in the school. So they're looking at how do we get them to speak the localized language so that they, in turn, can support their their children when they are going to school. So they offer English as a second language. They offer one-way dual language with immersion in English and Spanish. They offer a dual program, so a two-way dual language immersion for English and Spanish. And they also offer a one-way dual language program using immersion for English and Vietnamese. And the total number of students that they have actually for this project in Garland across 71 schools is 52,000 students. So it's quite a nice size implementation in terms of scale. In terms of the feedback that we have, so we can see there from Sofia Nunez. She says that when parents use Rosetta Stone with fidelity, their skills and confidence grow faster. They don't have to wait for a teacher to come and help them. They get the feedback that they need right there in the program so that they can continue to make progress. So where in one of the examples we were talking about a computer lab where the students are coming in of all ages into the high school with St. Jude's. We then talked about a blended classroom or a mixed use case with Varnet. Then obviously with McKeith Kimmel, that was a fully blended project that they were running there. And now this one is a complete standalone project. So there are different types of implementation examples that we're giving with the case studies. And with this one, all the parents come in and they independently use the technology to do their learning. The nice thing here is it's self-paced. They could do it in their own stream at their own time and at their own speed that they need to do it at. But it also develops additional skills like digital skills. So they're developing digital skills and they're developing language skills at the same time. In terms of some of those challenges and that they were facing, so the district faced a very high percentage of emergent bilingual students with parents lacking access to English learning resources. They had limited bilingual teachers for non-Spanish languages, which further complicated the support for diverse family backgrounds. And educators at Garnet Independent School District strive to work with students and families in meaningful and empowering ways. But overcoming language barriers is central to that collaboration. It was one of the key problems that they were facing. More than 38% of Garland students are classified as EB students, so emerging bilingual. And thousands of those students enter the school district each year, which further compounds the problem because you're adding to already a situation where not only do students, but also their parents are unable to speak the language that is being taught within the school. Now, although more than half of the student body is Hispanic or Latino, more than 70 languages are actually represented across the school district. So it wasn't just an issue of Spanish, but there were also many other backgrounds that students were coming from. Now, while students have access to emergent bilingual programs during the school day, the district actually realized that parents and families also really urgently needed language support. And English proficiency is strongly linked with job opportunities, as well as financial stability and family well-being. So learning English also empowers parents to be more active participants in their students' education, improving academic outcomes and graduation rates, because the parents are able to have those job opportunities and provide a more stable home. They're also supporting the children more while they're at school because there's less pressures for them. And again, quoting Sofia Nunez, the parent engagement facilitator for the district, she mentioned that English is the language of power here. If you don't have fluency in the language, you aren't able to be an advocate for your child, fully engage in the opportunities or services available, and be informed on your choices. So limited English skills hold parents back in so many ways. So this very much directly was linked to parent training, not to the students in the classroom. Now, the district did need a solution that would enable families to learn more independently and accelerate English language acquisition and learning, regardless of which language they were coming from. They have Spanish-speaking bilingual teachers available for parents, but they do not have bilingual teachers for most non-Spanish languages in the district, such as Arabic or Tagalog or some other languages like Mandarin or Russian, for example. Now, Garland needed a program that would allow them to serve all families regardless of primary language and accelerate English fluency for adult learners. In terms of the results, the program enables parents to gain basic English proficiency within a short number of semesters, fostering community participation, family support in education, and new employment opportunities. Rosetta Stone's integration has been effective, providing interactive, self-paced language learning, building confidence, and aiding teachers in tracking progress. With Rosetta Stone, the district is able to accelerate English acquisition, serve more parents, and meet the needs of adult learners regardless of language background or current English proficiency level. Rosetta Stone accelerates language learning, allowing most parents to achieve basic English proficiency in 1 or 2 semesters. And most parents stick with the program for 2 or 3 years to meet their English fluency goals beyond just the basics, so they get to an intermediate or an advanced level. Rosetta Stone's reports also make it easy for evening study center teachers to track progress and time in the program, so they know who has met graduation requirements and how much their fluency has improved. Building English proficiency for parents is making a real difference for families. When parents are confident in their language skills, they are able to participate in community activities and advocate for their children, both at school and for community resources. For example, a parent of a student with hearing loss was able to communicate with her teachers to ensure she had the right support in place. Parents are also able to better assist their children with homework and to participate with other school events. Many are achieving personal goals, such as finding new jobs, opportunities, or passing their citizenship test that they need with their language requirement. And on graduation day, everybody gets to share their stories and their excitement for the future. And the annual ceremony is the highlight of the year for participants. When participants actually talk about their English learning experiences, Rosetta Stone is almost always mentioned as the central core piece of their learning. With the help of Rosetta Stone, Garland School District is actually breaking down barriers and opening a lot of new opportunities for these families. And so it's quite easy to see that we align to the quality education piece about helping to support decent work and economic growth, reducing inequalities, as well as partnerships for the goals that we have for education there in terms of the alignment to the development goals. Those are obviously quick overview highlights of the case studies that we wanted to talk about. As I mentioned, we will be sharing the slide decks with everybody that attends. We'll be sharing a web link to the slides. So you'll be able to go into each of those case studies in more detail to understand some of the aspects about those case studies, how they were running, what the alignments are to the goals, and obviously go into more detail about the goal alignment there. What we'd like to do next is actually talk about the Rosetta Stone solution itself, how the program works as a K-12 solution, and go through some of the mechanism of the actual software tool and how AI can be used to support learning, and how technology as a whole, done in the right way, can really aid in supporting the learning environment within the schools. As I mentioned, please do feel free to ask questions in the chat. I see Anton has put a quick message in the chat to say hello to everybody. So do feel free, as we're going through, to ask any additional questions as we go on. We're going to focus primarily today in this session on our Foundations Learning Program, which is a program that is very much designed for the K-12 schools market. So both lower, middle, and high school system. I would say probably from about the age of about 6 to 8, going all the way through to school graduation. What it includes is language exposure. There are over 25,000 lively pictures, as well as over 400,000 real audio clips built into our software suite. With our Foundations Learning Pathway for English, and you can see that here, for example, it's aligned to 20 units. Each of those units, and we'll break this down as we go on further, takes a certain amount of time to complete, but each unit has its own theme. So you can see unit number 1 there is language basics. Unit number 2 is greetings, introductions. Unit number 3 is work and school. And then unit number 4 is shopping. But as you go all the way down to unit number 20, you can see family and community. And those themes are then aligned to sub-themes as you go into them. And we'll go into that into more detail in a moment. And we'll talk about some of the mechanisms of that. So I would say on average, it takes approximately between 4 and 8 hours to complete a unit. And here you can see we suggest that 4 units takes between 35 and 50 hours on average to complete, depending on your baseline language. Every single one of those units is broken into 4 core lessons, and each of those 4 core lessons then has multiple other activities to complete. So here you see an example of on the screen of speaking, writing, listening, reading, grammar, pronunciation, and a review activity. As you go up, you see that 4 units actually comprises of 1 level. And as we have 20 units, 20 times by 4, that makes the fact that we have 5 separate levels built in. Those levels are aligned and akin to completing 1 academic year, because typically 35 to 50 hours for most school students is about the average amount of time that a school student gets to study for an independent language program or a supplementary language program like Rosetta Stone. For the whole program, for all 5 levels, we would equate roughly 180 to 300 hours of learning, depending on the type of curricula that you choose, as well as all of the additional activities that you can do outside of just the units themselves. In terms of the languages on offer, we actually have, as we mentioned, 25 languages in total. And that includes all of the core European languages, such as English, French, Spanish, German, and Italian, as well as offering Chinese and Russian up to full 20 units. And then some of the other languages that we offer, but for up to 12 units, they include Arabic, Dutch, Greek, Hebrew, Hindi and Irish, Japanese, Korean, Latin, Farsi, Polish, Portuguese, Swedish, Tagalog, Turkish, and Vietnamese. So we actually have quite a range of languages there that we support, going from anywhere from 12 all the way through to 20 units in total. And we're adding more and more lessons all the time. So we're hoping that we can develop the other languages that currently have 3 levels, so that they have 20 levels in total as well. In terms of what we teach within our learning, it is all of the skills that you require from a language learning program as a second language. So that includes your reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills, as well as all of the core grammatical skills that you need for things like past, present, future, singular, plural, masculine, feminine, adjectives, nouns, verbs, and so on and so forth. So everything is built into the program, but it's built using what we call dynamic immersion. In terms of the lessons, I briefly mentioned to you that we have a core lesson and then it's split into multiple other activities. We call these focused activities, and they range from anything from 5 all the way through to maybe 15 minutes in length. The core lesson in total is approximately 30 minutes long. And the core lesson is what introduces the core language and grammar for the lesson there and the main vocabulary set. The focus activities then help to reinforce the core lesson and build additional skills. At the bottom, you see the review lessons. These are essentially tests of each of the lessons that we offer. So lessons 1, 2, 3, and 4. So a review tests your ability and what you've learned from those lessons. And then the milestone is testing across all 4 lessons in a unit. So you can see on screen, for instance, that we have lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. You can see the core lesson here, the structure. This is language basics, which is under the language basics, and then basic sentences is the sub-theme for lesson 1. And here we can see lesson 4, and the sub-theme is clothing and quantities. I'm not sure how well that shows up on screen. And we can see that there is a variation of how many lessons are presented to the student as they're going through all of the various lessons and activities in those lessons. In terms of some of the course settings, we'll go into some of the individual lessons in a moment, but in terms of some of the course settings for the parameters, so when the course is structured, there is a choice of the curricula that the student sees. As a school administrator, you're able to assign this on a school basis a class basis or on an individual student basis. So you might offer the standard curricula for all students, or you might offer a certain type of curricula, such as speaking and listening focused, or reading and writing focused, or an enhanced one that introduces the alphabet and the sounds of the alphabet as well. You're also able to adjust the sensitivity of the pronunciation engine, which is built-in AI tools that we have. And that AI actually is helping to practice speaking with the learner. So all the while that the learner is interactive, they're getting direct feedback about how well they are speaking, benchmarked against a native speaker of that language, be it English, French, Hebrew, Hindi, Tagalog. They're being benchmarked against a native speaker, and the accuracy of their pronunciation is measured against a native speaker. And what we could do is actually increase and decrease that sensitivity of the accuracy of our built-in AI engine. Also, the voice engine is aligned to based on you being an adult male, adult female, or child speaker. In terms of that speech recognition technology, it is patented to us. So it's what we call our true accent speech recognition technology. We developed that over 30 years. It is a large language learning model, similar to what you would find with speaking to Google or to ChatGPT or some of the other tools. But we developed this many, many years ago, and enhanced and developed this before large language models really became a thing and became very fashionable. So we integrated AI into our learning before AI was cool. But what it does, it provides students with immediate feedback without judgment from the software. It also supports speech correction, pronunciation correction, and accent reduction as they're learning a language. Now, the good thing here is that just using the software to practice to speak. One of the things that most schools complain about with students is that in a 1-hour lesson, if you've got 30 students, you can't even spend 2 minutes per student practicing speaking with each of those students. So what you're allowed to do, or what this allows you to do, is to get them to continue to practice speaking outside of the classroom environment, which helps to build that confidence so that when they do come back into the classroom, you can then blend that back into the learning and go, okay, we can see from the reports whether or not you're doing well or poorly with your speaking practice, and whether or not that's an intervention we now need to make in the classroom. So it allows teachers to actually become more efficient.
Drinking. Drink.
Drink.
King.
King.
Drinking.
Drinking.
I just wanted to check, could you hear the audio on that, Anton?
Sorry, could you repeat, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to get a thumbs up just to check if you could hear the audio from the video. When I played the audio, could you hear the audio playing?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry.
We got
So-
audio.
That's
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to double check that because sometimes the sound isn't shared. So what we're seeing here is an example of a pronunciation activity at a very early stage in the program, where it's showing you that it's breaking down a word into the different constituent parts. So for drinking, it's breaking it into the syllable for drink, and then the next syllable for king. You get to practice each part, drink, and then king, and then practice the whole thing, drinking. And then we see also an image of a girl drinking. So we can associate drinking to that image, and we can practice to pronounce it correctly, and we get the direct feedback in the software at the point of learning. Here we can see that for this pronunciation activity, this is actually a core lesson. We can see, lots of different things on screen here, and this is learning. So a sandwich, we see an egg, we see an apple, we see some milk, we see coffee, and we see some bread, not just a sandwich there. So the good thing here is we can associate in our head what these items are, And then we can learn to speak, with this language pretty quickly. So, un penino for a sandwich, un huevo for an egg, una mela for an apple, del latte for milk. So it's very nice to very quickly associate words with images and with sounds as we're learning. It's a very what we call dynamic immersion is a lot like being dropped into a country and being forced to interact in that language the whole time that you're learning. So we showed you about the pronunciation for a single word. I'm going to show you a quick example of how that works for sentences.
Driving. The man is driving, driving, driving. The small car is white, and the sky and the highway are black.
Driving. The man is driving, driving, driving. The small car is white, and the sky and the highway are black.
So there we saw a nice example from that's my colleague Phil in China, who was doing the pronunciation activity for a story, which is a more of an extended number of paragraphs for building out sentence practice with a student. You get to read it, hear it from a native speaker, and practice speaking. And you saw on screen there that you get feedback for each of the words where the pronunciation didn't directly align to the correct sound of what you should have been saying as you were saying it. So the learner is getting that feedback at the point of learning when they're making the mistake, so they can go back, practice again, and perfect their speaking and pronunciation as they're doing the learning at that point in time. We also have writing activities, as we mentioned. I'm just going to show you a quick example of a writing activity.
It's always cold here.
I'm just going to press pause because what you saw here is that something was said and you get to read that, and then you had to type out the response. So either you have to type out what was said, or you have to type a response as an answer to something that was said, or you have to read an activity and then respond in writing. So it could be that you're doing it via listening and then responding in writing, or you're doing it through reading and then responding for writing, because it's enhancing both of those skills. And it's the same with our speaking activities. So with some speaking activities, you might have to read something and then respond. And with others, you might have to listen to something and then respond back for the speaking there. And it's not always a closed response. Sometimes it could be an open question that doesn't have a wrong answer, just like a normal conversation. And how that response branches out will impact what the next conversation piece might be. So it's quite sophisticated sometimes in terms of how it builds out the practice of that. Now we've got a quick example of a grammar exercise.
I jumped off the bed. I'm going to jump off the bed. He threw the ball. He's going to throw the ball.
So there we saw present as well as future tense for the grammar exercises. I mentioned to you about the alphabet and the characters in the alphabet as well. So within Rosetta Stone, if you're not familiar with the alphabet, you're also able to learn the alphabet for a language and what that sounds like inside of a word. So a good example I would give is even in English, the letter A. A can sound like A, so alphabet or apple, or it can sound like O, like in daughter, or it can sound like O, like gauge. So it's an A sound rather than it's than an A sound or an O sound. So really depending on where that sits, that same letter is going to indicate how that sounds like within a word. And that's just in English. When we look at French or Hindi or Hebrew or Arabic or other languages that have accents as well, and what predominates in front will change what happens afterwards, that can be completely different. So the letter E with an accent backwards or forwards is going to completely change how that sounds. So in terms of bringing it all together, obviously you have those individual flashcards, you have the stories, you have the other activities like the phrase books, and then obviously words need to become sentences, and then sentences need to evolve into conversations without the need to translate in your head. It needs to become something that you think about in that target language. So I'm just going to show you a quick video of an example of that.
What color flowers do you want?
I want red flowers.
I want red flowers.
How many do you want?
I want 35.
I want 35.
There we saw a nice example of a response that you were going to give by speaking, but the response obviously was a response that was already predetermined on the screen. So understanding that the flower was red, or the number of flowers that you need to purchase, because it was showing you that on screen, and you've already learned the numbers, you've learned the colors, you've learned what flowers are, you've learned the fact that you want something, or that you have to put an argument for or against something, or you have to do some other activities part of your conversation. So it's developing that comprehension skill as well within the learning side of things. Now, the good thing here with Rosetta Stone is it's accessible across all devices, so both Android, iOS, and Windows. It's accessible across your tablet, your smartphone, your PC, your laptop, your MacBook. It allows you to also work offline. So for students who don't always have consistent internet, depending on where you're located, or if it's too expensive for your current region, you're also able to download lessons on your smartphone or tablet, and you can work offline without the need for any internet. And then when you have internet again, you sync up your progress across the different devices, so you can continue to learning across multiple things. So for instance, if I start learning on my phone while I'm traveling into the office or into school, I can then save that data by syncing up, and then transition over to a computer and continue learning where I left off. So it's very nice from that perspective to be able to do the same continuous learning across multiple devices and continue where I've left off. So I may not have 30 minutes for a 30-minute lesson, but I may have 10 minutes, and that's okay. Maybe I'll fit that 10 minutes into my study now. When I'm in a different location, I'll fit another 10 minutes in and continue where I've left off. In terms of implementation and implementation strategy, we work as a fully standalone solution. We also work as a lab or a class, fully blended, as well as utilizing Rosetta Stone as a classroom form of instruction. So we're able to flexibly utilize that depending on your requirements as a school for your own implementation strategy. I would say most schools are a mix of fully blended, lab time, and standalone. Very few use Rosetta Stone just as the classroom instructional tool, but some still do that, or they mix in a combination of blended and classroom instruction. In terms of the resources that we offer for teachers, we have several resources on hand and to offer that helps to build out the lesson planning, helps to build out blended learning, as well as being able to do things offline. So for instance, we have a scope and sequence document that talks to all of the lessons that we have across our curricula. It allows you to understand where things are being taught and when and how, and what is being taught in terms of that core concept of language, grammar, and vocab use, aligned to a theme. We also have multiple reading activities that align to our stories. We have classroom activities. This is what teachers love. The classroom activities help you to really prepare and blend into the classroom and allows you to have that flipped classroom environment. So you'll effectively have students do the work to prepare using Rosetta Stone, and then come into the classroom after you've reviewed the administration reports to see where students are struggling. And then you can use these classroom activity guides to actually build out some classroom activities and focus on that with the students that you know are struggling with some of those concepts and principles, because it's aligned to the same units and lessons as we have in the online learning. We also offer workbooks, we have flashcards, we have test and answer keys. So all of these things are kind of to hand. In terms of our reporting side of things, we have a full administration suite and tools that allows you to fully manage your student population, set up groups for schools so we can completely structure and map your school structure into our administration platform so that each classroom within the school and each grade, and whether or not it's for boys or girls, or if it's a mixed class, or if it's for younger or older or higher and middle and low ability, all of that structure can be built into our reporting platform as groups. And all of the students can be aligned into those groups so that teachers can pull reports for the groups that they're responsible for. You're also able to pull reports for the students in terms of comparing students between each other. You can look at individual reports to look at what the students have done individually, as well as what their grade looks like in terms of how they're performing for different skill sets. So if you want to focus on, understanding where are my students struggling as a group, I can go into those individual student reports and I can see, consistently I've got a bunch of students and they all seem to be struggling on these pronunciation lessons. So why don't I do some pronunciation activities in the classroom? Or it might be that, you're struggling with writing activities or reading activities or something else. And then it allows you as a teacher, when you're blending, to then focus on those in that classroom as the intervention that allows you to be more efficient in the classroom. One of the nice things I wanted to do, and we're not going to go on for too much longer, but is actually give you a real life example of an individual student. Now, this student's name is Hunter. Hunter is actually the nephew of one of my colleagues who is based in the US. And Hunter actually grew up in Kansas City. And you can see an image of Hunter when he was roughly around about 12 or 11 or 12 on his laptop on the top of the screen with his headset on. Actually, he was given Rosetta Stone by his Uncle Chris. He's a good friend of mine. I call him Bro because his surname is Brotherson. And he started learning a couple of different languages from the get-go. He just had an affinity for languages, Hunter did. Now, over the course of his high school, he actually was able to develop multiple language skills and to the extent that he ended up doing languages while at university. And he actually did a postgraduate degree, his master's, at St. Andrews University in Scotland, the same university that the prince in the UK went to, actually, William, where he met Kate. And he actually did that master's degree in German and Spanish with an integrated year abroad. Now, you can see Hunter graduating on screen there from St. Andrews. So I was quite proud of him as well because I met him a number of times. He's actually come to stay at my house a few times. But on his LinkedIn profile, you can see what his language abilities look like. So he has actually limited proficiency in Dutch, but he is fully native in English. He has full professional working abilities in French, German, as well as Italian. And then he also has elementary proficiencies in Greek and Hebrew, limited proficiency in Latin, elementary in Polish, Russian, and Yiddish, but also full professional proficiency in Spanish and Portuguese. So this is a true example of a complete polyglot who understands languages from various regions from around the world. Now, he's actually gone into the art world because he felt like this was a perfect example of a way to keep using language skills within the working world. And now he goes all over the world talking about art to people, trying to bring art into museums, bringing art into art houses for sale. and he's actually currently living in New York and enjoying that ability. He's just actually moved out of London, and he spent also, I believe, 6 months or a year in Italy working in museums in Italy. So he's actually had a great experience as a result of his employment opportunities. Now he speaks multiple languages. In terms of some of the issues that we have seen Rosetta Stone solving, and we'll just summarize these again. So we're talking about obviously an individual student there, but we're talking now at a school level. We do help to support low motivation and problems with concentration through Rosetta Stone, because the software and the lessons that you're doing interact in different ways as you're going through them. So you'll switch between a speaking lesson to then learning that topic in a writing activity or in a reading activity or in a different type of activity. It allows you to support language learning even if you don't have enough teachers. So the lack of a language learning environment doesn't inhibit you from offering language learning in your school by using something like Rosetta Stone. Also, if you have an insufficient number of hours for language learning in the school time, you're able to do that outside of the school hours by assigning it as homework or doing it as standalone. And it also helps to support low levels of foreign language proficiency, as well as low levels of domestic language proficiency. The nice thing is, because it is self-paced, it supports different speeds of language learning amongst students. So they might all start at the same level, but within a number of weeks or months, you might find that everybody is at a completely different pace to where each student is. And that's okay, because the software allows and supports for that different speed of learning. It also means that students with different levels of language proficiency in the same class can actually join where they should join. They don't all have to start right at the beginning. Or if they do start right at the beginning, the ones who move much quicker through because they already have that ability will get to the point that they need to be at in a much quicker way. Also, students with special needs, such as, I would say, dyslexia, are able to access Rosetta Stone because we can change that curricula to be more speaking and listening focused versus the reading and writing focus. It also allows the teacher to be more efficient, because one of the things that we know teachers lack a lot of times is time to review everything and interact with the student during the school time in terms of some of these activities. So this allows the teacher to pinpoint the areas that they can focus on while in the school. Anton, I'll just switch over to yourself and hand back to you just to talk about maybe the Ministry of Education piece and also maybe the Makif Gimel piece again.
Yes. At last year, the Rosetta Stone Solutions was approved by Ministry of Education of Israel, and for now, every school can buy our solutions in the application shop for schools, which is called Giffen. There is data about how you can find our proposal. In Makif here, the placed proposal from one of our company. It's Academy of New Technologies, and as you see here, represented the course of Hebrew, and you can buy not only of course a course on Hebrew. When you buy only one language, you buy at the same time you buy all 25 languages at the same time. For example, when you will plan your budget to the next academic year, you can buy Rosetta Stone for your school and implement, and we will help, after that, we'll help implement Rosetta Stone in your education activity. Okay, thank you, Harpreet.
Thank you. No, I think we have some direct feedback from some of the school children who completed their intensive training through Makif Gimel. So here we see from the first student, it says, before the course, I knew little Hebrew, but now I strengthened my knowledge, and it is much easier for me to understand Hebrew. The course was a little difficult, but I liked it. Second student says studying on this project was useful for me as I improved my level of Hebrew and improved my listening and analyzing skills. After practicing the material in each unit, the material is remembered very well. And the third student said, actually, great course, good memorization techniques that gave me a good basic vocabulary and a basic understanding of Hebrew grammar in just 2 months. So the nice thing here with this feedback from these students, obviously they were all learning Hebrew. It gives you a good idea of some of the experiences. Because of the way that the methodology is deliberately structured, it is aligned to very effectively and, more importantly, very deliberately build up that language skill so that you actually comprehend and understand that language skill. So one of the things that you might find is some programs might look really, really great in terms of how they look and feel. But actually, there's no content in there. And you have to be responsible for adding all of the content into the course, which is actually pretty hard work. What we have actually is the content. We have the methodology, which is very proven. We have tens of thousands of schools that have used this, if not hundreds of thousands of schools that have used our program over the last 30 years. And we know that it's an effective way of developing language skills. It's not just about learning basic vocabulary, but actually comprehending how to use a language. And of course, the schools can then develop that further. Now, with Rosetta Stone, the course license is offered for the whole year for the students. Each student owns their own license. So this isn't physical licenses sitting on a computer desk. These are online licenses that each student has access to. Licenses can be transferred between students as students leave the school or as students kind of graduate out of the program. And each student would have access to any one of the 25 languages that we have on offer if we're looking at our Foundations learning program. We offer full teacher training for the administration side of things, as well as for the language learning and support materials to make sure that they can fully implement the project into their schools. We also help to develop a strategy for implementation in the educational process, which includes engagement with students on an ongoing basis, which allows us to help assist in the implementation into the educational process for the schools. And if need be, the program can be used as a standalone solution, but it can also be implemented into a learning management system. So if you're using something like Moodle or Blackboard or some other kind of learning management system, we're also able to integrate into that system through a number of different options and a number of different ways. So if you are looking to integrate into a learning management system, we would have that conversation with you at the very beginning to make sure everything is integrated smoothly with our integration team. We would run that as part of a kind of initial trial and pilot to make sure everything is smooth before you make any kind of finalized purchase decision. I'm conscious of the time and allowing for some Q&A as well. So at this point, I'm going to hand over back to Anton to open up and just see, are there any questions from the participants who are left on the call? We're more than happy to answer any. I don't see any that came through in the chat, but maybe there are some questions that maybe anybody might want to ask at this stage.
We have now some questions in the chat. And I want to say thank you for all of our participants. Especially thank you, Harper, to you for very interesting speech about Rosetta Stone, about cases of using Rosetta Stone. We made capturing of this webinar and will send for all participants who had to leave us because today is a Thursday evening and a lot of people needs to spend time to prepare to the Friday and Shabbat. Okay, thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom. And I hope that we see you soon.
Thank you very much, all. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Shalom.
Shalom. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I stopped the lecture.